Good morning. Today is Thursday, May 25th, 2023. We have a lot to get to, and I'm sure that everyone's interested in what happened with NVIDIA yesterday, maybe even more so than the Fed minutes, which came out, as well as we get the second look at Q1 GDP. I'll just give you the headlines on that. Right now, it looks like preliminary Q1 GDP, the second look at GDP was up 1.3%. The estimate was for that number to be up 1.1%. So we grew a little bit faster in the first quarter than people thought. And we also had a little bit higher inflation than people thought too. And I think that this just probably puts the Fed on course, more likely to hike by 25 basis points in their meeting on June 14th. But it is pretty backward looking news. I mean, we're still recycling data that we started collecting in January. So to make policy decisions based off of that seems a little bit far fetched. But again, we did grow a little bit faster in Q1 than we had previously anticipated, which, the bears could look at that and say, well, that means that Q2 is going to be worse because if Q1 was higher, then if you net that out, then that means where we are now is worse in terms of a rate of change basis. But all that kind of takes a back seat today because NVIDIA just absolutely blew past estimates. So NVIDIA, when I started in the business, they provided gaming chips, they provided chips, graphics cards, essentially. And it was a fine business. It was very, very cyclical. It was dependent on what games came out. They kind of competed with AMD, sometimes made a profit, sometimes didn't. They've been around for a long time. And then they really started to develop a more clear vision. And the vision was that GPUs, their graphics chips, could be used for accelerated computing and do more than just a traditional CPU. And so they began to find other applications in this, and they found applications in automobiles, self-driving vehicles, and they found applications in the data center. And I always thought that, at first it was used in the data center as kind of a way to accelerate the traditional data center. And then increasingly it was used more as a primary workhorse for the data center. And then some things came out and said they're actually a little bit more energy efficient. And data centers grew just in general. And now we are at the cusp of artificial intelligence. And NVIDIA has been looking forward to this for a number of years. The CEO, Jensen Huang, is a visionary, and he was able to see this because NVIDIA and AMD were kind of peers at one point, and NVIDIA has just completely blown past them. And that's truly down to Jensen Huang's leadership. And now you have the announcement of ChatGPT back in January and February. And this has kicked off a gold rush. So think of the first gold found at Sutter's Mill. And then think of all the people who came. And let's say there's one company there that provides picks and shovels and pans to the people coming to prospect for gold. And now pretend all those prospectors are the wealthiest companies on the planet and that they can't afford not to use your picks and shovels and pans. And that is exactly where NVIDIA is right now. And so the gold that they found at Sutter's Mill, this is ChatGPT. All of a sudden, there's a use case for to be out west, and a lot of these people are just latching onto that. And NVIDIA is standing to benefit, and they should continue to benefit for quite some time. They now expect this is a company that's kind of grown at 20 to 30% over the last number of years. Very good growth. And that's what they've done. And they've been a little bit cyclical. They are going to grow data center revenue by more than 100% in a single quarter, in the July quarter. and they expect substantial growth in the second half of the year over the first half. So this is going to continue. And essentially what you're having is any estimates that existed for NVIDIA coming into the quarter, those estimates are going to be doubled. The earnings estimate coming into the quarter was $4.60. My estimate now is $9, and I think they should be able to do that. The revenue estimate, I think, is probably going to go from between $28 and $30 billion to closer to $50 billion for the year. And there are some corollaries that you can draw here. I think that these are fair comparisons. That is the advent of the Ford Model T, the IBM mainframe, the Apple iPhone. And I would even hesitate to put the iPhone in here because the iPhone still needed mass adoption. It generated lower gross margin than what NVIDIA has. The market was a little bit more competitive for Apple at the time than it is for NVIDIA. So essentially, you're creating a next level technology that will capture the imaginations of your customers in a very, very big way. And it just kind of follows that the companies that enable these technology innovations and captures his imagination tend to be the largest companies in the world. Whether you're looking at Standard Oil in the Industrial Revolution, General Motors, as the automotive industry became more universal in the 60s and 70s, the AT&T, Bell companies in the 80s, the telecom industry took off, Microsoft, Apple, and I really do think NVIDIA is next. Now, what's the downside scenario of this? Well, you look at a company like Cisco. Cisco briefly became the world's largest company in March of 2000 because Cisco was enabling the internet. That's a pretty big advance. And, what happened over the next 10 years? Well, not much for Cisco. Their earnings went up. Their stock price did not change. The stock price went down. And could that happen for NVIDIA? Potentially. The difference is NVIDIA is led by a management team that is innovative, that's visionary. Cisco, he was kind of in the right place at the right time. It's founded by a couple college professors. And that's just what they did. It wasn't that they necessarily saw this as a unique business proposition and were able to execute on that. So I draw a little bit of comparison with Cisco there, but that would probably be the downside scenario I'd see. But again, even Cisco did become the world's largest company even for a while at a little bit over $500 billion back in March 2000. So just a phenomenal quarter, phenomenal guidance. And we do have an earnings report on that. If you would like that, we can send that over to you. If you want some more information about what they're doing, also feel free to email us, call us. Be happy to talk to you about that. But NVIDIA just with a tremendous quarter, stocks up close to 30% this morning. So a lot of market cap being added, north of $250 billion of market cap as it approaches $1 trillion. So we'll see where that opens. I also expect a lot of mutual funds will be pretty keen to add that to the portfolio. I think that NVIDIA is relatively underowned by mutual funds, and that won't be able to persist when NVIDIA is a 3% weighting in the S&P 500 with these type of numbers. So watch this space. I could see a big rally into the end of June, especially if we get a debt ceiling deal and the overall market backdrop improves. Best Buy beat estimates for the quarter. Comps are beginning to get easier. They were down 10% in the first quarter. They expect to be down 6 to 8% in Q2. They reiterated the outlook for the year. So Best Buy with a decent quarter, nothing really incredibly good. The big screen TVs actually were a little bit better than expected, but on the downside was computing and mobile phones were fairly negative, as well as consumer and electronics. So and appliances were very negative. So most people, they're buying big screen TVs, not so much the refrigerators and heavy appliances. So that's what's going on at Best Buy. Tonight, we do have earnings from Costco and Autodesk, so we will be watching that space very closely. We are pretty keen on Costco. we know their revenue number because they report that monthly. So we feel good about that. And we also like the idea that their margin profile should improve this quarter because of an accounting issue where, for those of you who know accounting, if you use LIFO, then you have the LIFO reserves. And as you go through your last in, first out, then you get to lower cost inventory and you're able to have higher margins when you sell out that inventory on an accounting basis. So that's what we're looking for in Costco. Autodesk might be hurt a little bit by a little bit of a slowdown in real estate. We do, by the way, have that real estate podcast up. I will be sharing that out as well on LinkedIn. So if you would like to learn a little bit more about what's going on in the local real estate market, especially on commercial real estate, I thought it was a very good conversation. It's about 57 minutes, but you can break it into pieces. The last 20, 30 minutes, we really talk about what's going on in the economy right now, especially in the Atlanta economy. Basically, John's conclusion is that multifamily might hold up okay. We could actually end up in a supply deficit in a couple of years because of the lack of development that's happening right now. Office, he said, is just not a place to be, and that could cause some issues going forward. The Fed minutes we received yesterday afternoon, it ended up being a little bit of a nothing burger. A lot of word salad, I guess you could say. Several members thought that further tightening may not be necessary, but some thought further hikes would be required. And in 2017, the Federal Reserve actually put out a paper that delineated when they say some or when they say several, what those words mean. And some actually means more than several. So if some think that more rate hikes are needed and several think that rate hikes are not needed, well, some is more than several. Therefore, it's more likely that more rate hikes are needed. So that's kind of the thinking there. Jay Powell is one of the several, which means you have more people actually wanting more rate hikes, but you have the head wanting fewer rate hikes. So you marry those two, and right now the probability for a rate hike in June is 33%. I think that's probably about fair. I would take the over on that, just because I think that the data will end up being a little bit more resilient when you look at the employment data and inflation data for the month of June, for the month of May. And we should be getting that in the next week or two. Ron DeSantis launched his 2024 presidential bid last night. He launched it on Twitter, actually, in a conversation with Elon Musk, but that didn't get going until 20 minutes late. In fact, you couldn't even hear him talk for 20 minutes. So they put the spin on it that DeSantis broke Twitter, which is, that's a good spin to put on it. I think, he probably would not have done it again if given the choice through Twitter. So, but Ron DeSantis is in the presidential race. He has a lot of ground to make up against former President Trump. So we'll have to see what happens with that. It's, we're still a ways from the first primaries, and there's a lot more to come. And I wouldn't be surprised to see more surprises all over the place in the political realm. And then finally, you do have a bit of a COVID rebound in China. This is something that began to be reported a couple of days ago, but has since gained a little bit of steam. There's been some local reports in China that they're getting ready for 65 million cases per week of COVID in the country, which would be the biggest wave yet. It does not seem like they're going to be doing lockdowns. And they're scrambling to prepare vaccines to counter the wave. But this could be a big deal, and we're definitely going to need to watch this space a little bit more closely, because we do know that the Chinese are a little bit more fearful of COVID than maybe some of these Western countries. And we just need to be aware of that, because a whole thesis for many companies right now is the reopening of China. But that has since slowed. It has slowed significantly over the last month or two, and there's a concern that the COVID rebound will only slow it further over the next month. So keeping an eye on that. But NVIDIA really the story of the day. And, you know, it's just, I cannot stress enough. I just haven't seen a quarter like this in my career. And not just a quarter, but what it means for the future. And so we're going to be pretty intent in analyzing that. And I spent a lot of time of it last night and this morning. So if you have any questions, let me know, because I certainly got up to speed a lot on it. So with that, we will leave it there. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day, and we'll talk Costco in the morning.